Thank you for staying with us here on TVC Breakfast. Band A consumers of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission will have to pay more for power with the recent approval of 300% increase in electricity tariff. The Vice Chairman of NERC, Musiliu Oseni, disclosed this while briefing newsmen at the NERC headquarters in Abuja. Our correspondent Adeola has more on this story.
Since the privatization of electricity generation and distribution sectors in 2013, Nigeria has regulated electricity tariffs through the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. Power distribution companies will be allowed to raise electricity prices to 225 naira per kilowatt hour from 68 naira for urban consumers this month, effectively 1st of April. The decision to raise the tariffs nearly threefold within weeks is part of Nigeria's strategy to attract new investment into the energy sector and reduce the substantial $2.3 billion annual expenditure on electricity subsidies.
So completion transition charge is based on the provision of the Act, and it means a revenue that a disco or a trading licensee can be allowed to earn, which will come from other customers, which as a result of the need to meet its total revenue requirement that has been impacted by an exit of eligible customers. Because the discos are not allowed to earn more than what the Commission has determined for them, but if they lose a customer to eligibility, there is a potential for them to lose their revenue, part of their revenue requirement. So there is a provision in the Act that the Commission may at a point in time review any application for such competition transition charge and make a determination and grants approval to the distribution company to earn such a revenue.
Bloomberg News Agency had reported this anticipated hike, noting that it would affect about 15% of the population who consume 40% of the nation's electricity. The Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority recently announced an increase in the price of natural gas, which fuels over 70% of the country's electricity generation. The new 2024 base gas price has been set for power sector companies and commercial users, as stated by NMDPRA's Chief Executive Farouk Ahmed, marking a shift from the previous rate of $2.18 to $2.42 per 1 million British thermal units. Adeola, TVC News, Abuja.
Now let's talk this through by speaking with the team lead, Platforms Africa, Adeola Yusuf, who is joining us in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
My pleasure.
Yeah, so it's been, some sort of hullabaloo, from Nigerians, those who are also manufacturers, those who are investors, etc., reacting to the sharp increase in electricity tariff, especially for those in Band A. But first, let's get your initial reaction to, this developing story.
Okay, thank you. First of all, we have to establish some facts about the Nigerian electricity industry. Number one, for the population of about 200 million people, Nigeria is having about 3,500 megawatts. The last power audit, done by, the power audit unit of NERC shows that Lagos alone needs 10,000 megawatts. So that is to tell us that Nigerian power supply is, greatly far below what we need. That established. Number two, it is established that on Friday, November 1st, 2013, Nigeria government, privatized the part of the industry, the value chain. And we have three major. The first one is the generation. The second one is the transmission. The third one is the distribution. Quickly, the generation, as the name connotes, has to do with where the power is being produced, manufactured, generated from the source. In Nigeria, as we speak now, over 70% of power generated come from gas. Even though we have hydro and a bit of others, but 70 to 75% of the entire generation comes from gas. So that aspect was privatized the day I mentioned. Then the government left the transmission in Sampit for Nigerians to understand. As those power are being generated, they are generated in megawatts. That is very, very injurious and so risky to human, consumption. So it has to be taken with, a high voltage carrying technology, and that has to do with technology. Transmission. You see spread across the country about 5,000 kilometers of a transmission line, skeletal-looking, transmission lines that will take that, to the national grid. Then from there to various substations where they will step down that consumption to a level that can, relate with human. Then from there, they take it to various transformers in our various communities. Right. By the time they get to those transformers, they step it down, then it becomes the property of the third, stratum of that value chain, which is the distribution. Then from there, we can have it in our various homes. So what we are talking about now is that few days ago, before now, there has been issues about the capacity of that generation. We have been told that generation in Nigeria has 13,000 capacity, but we are doing between 3,000 and 4,000 megawatts. Anytime we do far above 4,000, they deposit that in the transmission grid, it collapses. That's another issue. But now, there has been issue of why don't we generate 13,000 megawatt the capacity that we have? Why is it that we do about 3,000 to 4,000 megawatts? The issue is that, international companies that sell gas to these gas companies, privatized companies, are being forced, quote unquote, to sell it to them at a price that is not profit-making. So, a few days ago, NMDPR announced, readjustment in gas. So immediately that announcement was made, some of us knew that, okay, what is going to happen is that at the tail end of that value chain, there will be readjustment in, the tariff. Okay, so when that news came on board, at least it was not surprising to some of us who knew that definitely that will happen. Another thing that we need to quickly say as a way of laying a background to this issue is that a few days ago as well, I think precisely last week, the Minister of Power came to Lagos and he announced that Nigerians should, be waiting to, get distribution of 8,000 megawatts. So when you want to get 8,000 megawatts before December, and generation companies are doing about 3,000, 4,000 megawatts because of gas, and they have increased gas, that definitely there is going to be a change in that interval. So now the announcement shows that, those in Band A, and who are those in Band A? There are people that get, according to the NERC explanation, get 18 hours, 20 hours out of 24 hours supply every day. Remember that, in February, there was a review of the tariff too, but that didn't come down the ladder because government took that responsibility to continue to pay subsidy. So the minister as well has been going around with the gospel of subsidy removal on electricity. So what this now means is that people, particularly, generally those in industrial customers, and people that are getting customers. And in fact, as we speak, even in Lagos, there are companies, there are estates that have approached distribution companies to sign agreement that, see, our issue is not, the tariff to see, because if 24 hours we burn our fuel for them. So if we place it side by side, we'll see that it's still relatively. So those that are producing too, they have approached that, okay, so what we need is give us 24 hours electricity supply, and we agree that we are going to, have a special, billing system. So, and that has been in place. But the fear some of us have is that even though that will impact the industry, but it's not going to solve, entirely solve the issue we have in the industry. Of course, arguments have been on the table that, okay, we take a step, first before another. But it's important, maybe in the course of this program, I'll be able to say why I think that will not solve the problem. Number one. Then number two, if it has happened to Band A, because I could see a lot of people have been saying that it's only Band A. In our estate, we don't have up to 22 hours or 20 hours. Definitely it's coming to other bands. Expect that big bang.
Okay, so if Band A is having constant power, and you think that the 300% will come to other bands, do we expect that the other bands too will have constant power?
I'm not clear with that question.
Okay, if Band A gets 18 to 20 hours of power supply, and that's necessitated the fact that the minister's decision to increase the tariff by 300%. And you are just mentioning that other bands will get their own share much later. Do we expect that as time goes on, we will have other bands having constant power as well?
Okay, yes.
Because some are having as low as 4 to 6%, 4 to 6 hours.
Some are not even having up to that.
Yes.
I'm aware of settlements in Ogun State, and where anytime there is power supply, they definitely know that they should expect ladder the second day.
Yes.
Yeah. So there are places like that don't even get in a day. They don't have at all. They have 0 hour in a day.
So where do we categorize those? Because we know band A, band B, band C.
Band E.
Band C, band D, we have band D, we have band E.
And you know bands too.
No.
Because when you don't have light for a week,
I agree with you that there are some that have no band because of the fact that despite all these issues we are talking about, there are people that are still not connected to the grid.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have band 0.
Yeah.
Of course. So but because the minister has promised that 8,000 megawatts will come on or before December, I think he has left us with that word and that we should start tracking. Whether, of course, if we have 8,000, it means the supply, there will be increase in supply.
This is not the first time we're hearing such.
Definitely, but as a Nigerian, and that is sitting, on this seat, I think we should be optimistic. Because a lot of what we will see may affect a lot of people. If the minister has said so, maybe it's December, let's wait till that. Based on my experience in the industry, you may want to quickly doubt whatsoever deadline or deadline that they give. Because we have issues about December last year for Port Harcourt refinery.
Yeah.
We were here talk about that, and at the end of the up to now, the refinery has not produced a liter. So anytime that is coming from any government officials too, naturally there's that trust deficit. People may want to.
They didn't say they didn't say the Port Harcourt will produce a liter at that time. They only say it's a phase. So they finished the mechanical completion. That was a mechanical completion. So just to set the record straight, we're not expecting that we'll start refining in December.
Okay, maybe we'll try to go back to that record. They said the Port Harcourt refinery will be ready by December.
Right.
You understand? Then what we had in December was that it has mechanical completion.
That's right.
So what is mechanical completion?
You're asking me that.
No, because I try to. So truth of the matter is that to a layman, when you say something will be ready, what that means is that thing
will be up and running.
It will come. So up till now, today should be 5th of April. He has not produced, and that is the fact. He has not produced a liter. It was ready mechanically, but on the day we were having that promise, nobody said that what they were promising was a mechanical completion. But the fact that we are even establishing is that, despite that, we shouldn't doubt it if a statement is coming from officials of government. Of course, we have a deadline that you can use to track whatever developments of what they have just said.
So in all of this now, we're talking about the power supply. How can we get constant power? Because we see that the State's Electricity Domestication Act has been signed into law, but many states have not taken advantage of it. A few states, Lagos and the likes, are taking advantage. But is this going to ensure we get constant power? Because people I would want to pay for constant power rather than use my generator. So do we expect to get constant power if states take advantage of this act?
Definitely. A fact has to be established that, this government and the previous government, have, tried a bit when it comes to power, sector. Try a bit, a lot of Nigerians.
In what sense?
Okay, so I will explain now. The Nigerian Electricity, Act signed into law, by the government is a very bold step. The issue about review of gas price is a bold step. A lot of other issues, the privatization was a bold step. The plan to ensure the regulation of the transmission is a bold step, and so on and so forth. And there is a difference between, policy and signing of a bill into an act. And there is between that and actual execution of those policies. Of course, part of that policy is that those policies have to be domesticated. As we speak, as at the last count, it was only Lagos and Edo, that we had domesticated those, the provisions of those acts. And you cannot execute those acts if you do not domesticate. So I think if a lot of other state governments, domesticate that act, what that means simply is that they have the right. Before now, if you do above 100 megawatts, if you produce above 100 megawatts, or if you go slightly above that, you are compelled to send it to the national grid.
True.
So what will now be the attraction for you to produce? I'm aware states like River State for a long time, have been they have been investing in the power. But if they produce, they must send it to the national grid. I'm aware of the Akwa Ibom states too, and a few others that have been, investing in the power sector. So what will not be the attraction if you invest for the development of your state and you are compelled to send it to the national grid? So what that act has come to do is to make sure that, okay, if you produce, you can as well, distribute.
It, yeah.
That's number one. Then number two, we remember that, like what happened at the Berlin conference. On that 1st of November, Nigeria was, compartmentalized. It was fractionalized into different, catchment areas, 11 catchment areas. So your property, if it's on certain land, it belongs to a distribution company. So whatever you want to do, if an estate wants to generate, you must go and meet that distribution company. It's for you to understand. But this act has been able to liberalize that. So an estate, if they have the capacity, they can approach a company. What they will do, not that they will not inform the distribution company, they will inform you, but not that they will be waiting for that distribution company.
Waiting for approval.
Yeah. Approval from distribution. So they will just approach NERC, and so it has liberalized that sector. And because of the fact that we have not started seeing investment, because you can't invest where you will not see return on investment. So with a lot of things that have happened, hopefully, because it's important that I know that, hopefully we should be able to start seeing changes.
I wanted to expatiate on the point you raised earlier, saying that some states actually went to, the power generation company, saying that, or the transmission company, or which of the company, one of the value chains, that they need more power supply, and they are willing to pay more. But you said that may not necessarily solve the problem. Was that what the point you're trying to make there?
Okay, the point I'm just trying to make is that even with this, the increment in the, or the review, because the law that we call it review, people in government don't want you to call it hike or increment. The review that has led to the increment in the 300% increment from 66 naira per kilowatt hour to 255 naira per kilowatt hour for band A that has happened, the review of the gas price, all of them cannot 100% solve the issue we have in the value chain. Remember that up till this sample we're talking, is only the generation, the beginning of that value chain, and the distribution that were privatized. The transmission is still at the armpit of the government. Remember, a few days ago, the national grid collapsed. It was a total collapse. That has nothing to do with generation or distribution. So what that is telling us, and the figures we have, even though some people were quoting second time in this year, but the figure we had that was printed by a published by was that was the fourth time in 3 months. So that tells you that there's something wrong with that transmission. A lot of people have described that transmission as the weak link. So what happens is that anytime they put more than 4,000 megawatts into that grid, it collapses. That tells you that that grid's capacity has to be upgraded. A lot of things have to happen at that grid, because there is no way you will generate and it gets to the distribution without passing through that grid. So that too has to be looked into seriously. And another thing that I just add to it is that a lot of time, if you look at it from what I've read, the social review, even the academic review of the power sector, you will see that some people, not everybody this time around, some people don't mind to pay commensurate amount. But where is the power to pay for it? So if you are even, a lot of people, I will tell you, a lot of people want to be in band A. Because what that tells you is that those people, if they don't have up to 22 hours or 20 hours, they will not pay that amount. So it's a bond already. So a lot of people will want to be in band A. Not everyone this time around. So if you are a producer, or if you are someone that's operating a small-scale industry, for instance, and you know that whether you like it or not, your business cannot move if you don't burn generator 24 hours. If you want to place it side by side, you see that belonging to band A will even be better. So the fear we are having, which we all need to talk about now, is that this even though it's good, discrimination, quote and unquote, of the bands, but we wouldn't want a situation where it's going to be certain people in certain band that will continue to have electricity. Because that's, when discrimination, sets in, distribution companies start getting money from certain people. You understand the psyche of private sector. They will concentrate, and it will be to the advantage, of others. So it's important that we highlight that as well.
Interesting.
So when the Ogun River the dam was opened, we did an analysis at one point, and we saw that a lot of people spent an average of 35,000 in a week for fueling their houses because they have their generator has to run because of the freezer and the perishables in the fridge and all of that, so it doesn't spoil. Now, you mentioned that Lagos alone needs about 8,000 megawatts.
10,000.
10,000 megawatts.
As at about 10 years ago, during the administration of former President Fashola.
So right now, in the whole of Nigeria, how many megawatts do we need?
Up to today, I'm not sure we do up to 4,000 megawatts.
For the whole of, do we need?
Do we need
as in Nigeria? Because at least South Africa does about 40,000
barrels.
Yes.
Okay. The figure that I will quote will be, maybe an outdated figure because I'm not aware of a recent, you understand.
Yeah.
So with that, 200 million people, like I said, about 50% or thereabout of Nigerians are not even on the grid.
Truly.
So if we need 200 million people, what is the population of South Africa? I don't think we need anything less than 200,000 megawatts. I mean, I don't think we need anything less than 200,000 megawatts because one beautiful thing about electricity is that if it's generated, you must look for ways to use it.
Truly. But I also noticed that in places like, I was talking with someone this morning, in places like Songo, in places like maybe Joko, some other areas like that, they have a lot of power. Yet you go to areas like Ikeja or Bagada, within Lagos, do not have that much power. Why are we having that kind of discrimination where on the outskirts people are having power, but inside they're not having that much?
I'm wondering which side of Songo you're referring to.
Well, I spoke with someone today. Don't worry.
Okay. I can confirm that there are areas.
There are areas like that, yes.
Songo that you have. And, it's so simple. Those people are on band A. Well, what you are looking at in terms of...
is it because Songo is closer to some industries that are very close?
It's an industrial cluster. So you understand? Yeah. So that is what we have been saying about Band A. It's not necessarily about, how fancy looking the estate
looks. Yeah.
It has more to do with, the need and the usage of that electricity. I'm not aware of any industrial cluster that is bigger than Songo or Ta industrial cluster. Even though there are some industries that use gas, and all that, but the consumption in that aspect, in that axis is very, very high.
So it means that the companies, the firms there will be paying higher. Yeah, even paying for the people, because a lot of people there might not even, because they can get a bill of as high as 5,000 to 10,000 naira a month. And some people might not even be able to pay. Okay, so
this is what happened. If your area belongs, your structure belongs or falls at a cluster where you have band A, you cannot but be in band A. Truly. Because, another issue that I ought to have even talked about is that, a lot of Nigerians, one thing on the chart of the issues that the minister, needs to tackle seriously is the issue of is the issue that has to do with measurement, accurate measurement. You understand? If you are on a prepaid meter and your house, your structure, no matter, even if it's a one-bedroom apartment, you are on band A, definitely. All you need to do is to now gauge the way you use your electricity. So rooms, in your sitting room in the afternoon, if your TV set is powered, you don't need to, power your bulb.
That's why everybody should have a prepaid meter.
Definitely.
That's why everybody should have a prepaid meter.
Because of our time, sorry to bottom. Because of our time, we've been talking about all of these things, and then it looks like it's a recurrent, conversation that we've been having on electricity. Although they're trying to, chart the right course forward. Do you feel that it is high time we started utilizing alternative sources like solar, wind,
gas.
Gas. Did you still mention gas?
People use gas.
Yeah, so all the alternative
CNG,
sources, just to CNG, just to ensure that we shore up our electricity availability.
Okay, so it's very, very important. That is another area. The Minister of Power should see himself as the minister in charge of ensuring that we have power no matter the source which we have it. A lot of Nigerians have been forced into, alternative power sources because whether we like it or not, energy is like oxygen we breathe in. Right. Particularly for economy. So economy cannot thrive if we do not have, energy. So a lot of Nigerians have been doing that. So there should be that help. The real issue there now is that it should be cost effective. If you want to use solar, for instance, you should not think that, okay, because sun is free, the panel too will be free. There are some panels that are very, very expensive. So the government should intervene by ensuring that, okay, we get panels, at a rate that is, pocket sharing, if you allow me to use that word. So all those ones will allow Nigerians, to enjoy sufficient power.
But I heard that some landlords will not even allow you to install solar panel in their houses. Is that due to lack of awareness or information? Okay,
so that is a part of what the government needs to do as well. Of course, if they don't call them landlords for fun, you understand? And if it gets into the head of whoever that is owning a house, it may even tell you that you cannot give birth to more than 2 in my house. You understand? But that would still result to lack of awareness and lack of information. So a lot of that has to be, and a lot of people do not know that even with 10,000, 20,000, there are panels you can get and you enjoy electricity. The only thing is that in the afternoon, you put them where they're supposed to be. Then in the evening, in the night, you understand? Only that, it will depend on the capacity. If you want to use it for your fan, you will increase the capacity and all that. But if for you to just use as bulb. So it is information that we need. A lot of people need to be aware. And there are some people that belong to band A or whatsoever band you belong to. What you need to do is to ensure that you manage the usage of electricity. There's nothing wrong that you have a solar paneled small bulb that you can charge with electricity. Then in the evening, you can use that one to light your house. It will be your fridge and your fan or whatsoever that you want to use. So it's important too that Nigeria, and I know that whether we like it or not, the economy that we have now and the increment in the electricity tariff will force a lot of people to understand how to manage their electricity.
Well, very interesting submissions you actually gave us today on the show this morning. The team lead, Platforms Africa, Adeola Yusuf. Thank you so much for your keenness of insight.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Right. Now,